Hey guys, I'm so excited for you to listen to part two of the episode with Maddie. I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer because this is such a juicy episode. I can't wait for you to listen to it. Let's head straight in.
Maddie, how do you think you face mindset? Yeah, sure. How do you think you face mindset obstacles in your life? And do you maybe have a unique approach or a well-used approach that you think can help others?
I think for myself, obviously I have mindset obstacles all the time, as we all do. But I think the thing that really helps me to kind of navigate whatever I'm going through is trying to narrow it down as to like, where is this coming from? So if I'm triggered by, let's just say, I'm actually going to use an actual example that happened the other day. Um, my partner was going away with his friend to like this little holiday because it's a long weekend this weekend. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, like, why doesn't he want me to go? Like, I was making this whole thing about me. And this was just to myself. I wasn't saying any of this to him. And then I was like, all right, wait a minute. Why am I triggered by this? Literally, why am I being dramatic? We're in a healthy relationship. Everything is fine. He's allowed to have a weekend away with his friends, but why am I actually triggered by this? And being able to question yourself in the moment, which can be really hard, especially when you are in that heightened state. But I was like, why am I triggered by this? And it turns out
Mm.
that I actually had some little T trauma from my past relationship about a situation that I wanted to go to, and I basically wasn't wanted in that situation. So, hence why I immediately was like, why doesn't he want me there?
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, okay, you're being silly. Like,
yeah.
stop thinking like that. So it's kind of being able to like catch yourself in that moment when you're reacting a certain way, because we have complete control over how we react, what we say, what we do, how we behave, what we think, all those things. So being able to like cut that off and be like, all right, why am I doing this? What's
Hmm.
going on? And I think taking responsibility can be really, really hard in these instances, but being able to actually like take responsibility and be like, okay, am I actually upset,
Yeah.
or is something coming up for me? Like being able to differentiate between the two
Mhm.
can really help you to understand yourself more and understand like where are these things coming from, because like the situation that I just said, like he was like, what do you mean? Like I just want a weekend with my friend, like, like it's
Yeah,
fine.
it's not even in
So
his awareness to think that
literally,
that would
yeah,
maybe come up for you. And
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how obviously it's very evident that everyone has different perceptions of things. Um, and I think now for myself, like after being in a toxic relationship and now being in a healthy relationship, understanding that like everyone has a different perception. So, you know, I could say something to him and be like, "Oh my God, I shouldn't have said that." Like, was like, but it wasn't anything. Like we
Hmm.
actually we overthink so much as humans.
Yeah.
Um, and our belief system is created from all different things that have happened in our lives. So also being able to like hold yourself before you say anything to someone. So you're not, emotionally dumping on someone or projecting
Yeah.
is really, really big, and is actually like, I'm sure you as well, has saved you from so many like drama or like
Yeah.
toxic conversations or whatever it may be, because you're like, wait a minute, am I being reasonable, or is
Hmm.
something coming up for me, and what is it, and how can I navigate it?
Yeah. I also have that like in the reverse. Like I definitely have it in that way. I've always been someone that holds what they're saying. Um,
Mm,
like in the sense that I will not speak until there is like a clear break for me to be able to say what I want to say. Um,
yep.
like whether that's in an argument or in a social situation,
Yep.
I'm not a person that interjects themselves a lot. Like if
Mm,
it's something I'm really excited about and I'm with my close friends, then yeah, of course, like it's just a back and forth. But
yep.
maybe like especially when there is something like uncomfortable happening, I will sit there and I will take everything into consideration before I even open my mouth. And I've been like that since I was a kid. Probably some little teacher over
Yep.
there. But I'm also in the reverse, like I should speak up more when like I hold it too
Mm,
much. I should be
yep.
speaking up and I don't. And sometimes that can be an issue because like like with my partner, he wants to know, like, what do you actually think of this situation? But in my head, I'm like, hold on. Like, don't say anything until you know all the facts. Like, protect yourself first. If you speak out of turn here,
Dissect
like,
the beliefs and the thoughts first before you say anything.
yeah, exactly. And then I become
Yeah.
sort of like this kind of too processed, and then I'm also projecting because I'm trying to control myself and like what they think of me. Because what if I say something out of turn and then they think this and then they do that? So if I don't say this, if I don't do that, then they can't do that in turn. And I'm trying to control my entire world. It's not ideal. It's not optimal.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it works in both ways. You can either hold yourself too much from saying anything and doing anything because you're scared of what the response will be, or you're not holding yourself enough. You're not holding yourself accountable. And you're like, okay, well, if I don't take any responsibility, nothing is ever wrong with me.
Oh yeah. That was a big one for me. That was something I really had to navigate when it came to stepping into this industry and like learning more about myself. Is like, you can't always play the victim. Like, you actually have to take radical responsibility in everything you do, because you're not going to get anywhere. Like, you're going to keep having these reoccurring things happen and you're like, why is this happening? And it's like, all right, what's the common denominator here? Where aren't you taking responsibility, and where could you be shifting, you know, whether it's the way you're speaking to people or like your thought process behind something, like, you know, whether fear is keeping you stuck, whatever it looks like. Responsibility is huge.
Yeah, exactly. And just even the fact that we can talk to holding ourselves accountable is a testament to the work we're doing, because a lot of people won't even have this in their awareness that they do or don't take responsibility for things, because it's just so subconscious. Like, you are so trained in yourself to just push the blame. It's not my fault. I didn't have any part of this. Like, even from kids, because if something went wrong, okay, this can't be my fault. Like, I'll get in trouble. So let me shift the blame. Like, no, I didn't say anything. It was someone else. Like, I didn't do that. If you, especially, I don't know if you have siblings, but I have siblings. And pushing blame was the thing to do in our household.
I loved it. I still do.
Never my fault. I never did anything wrong. I couldn't possibly have been in that situation at that time, eating cookies when I shouldn't have been. Like, that wasn't me. And it's just so ingrained in us as kids, and we just take it on into adulthood that nothing is ever my fault. They are always the one doing something wrong to me. If you're losing friends consistently, maybe the friends are shit. Like, fair enough. You might have some shit people in your life, but where are you taking accountability for the fact that, okay, I had shit friends, but how long was I holding on to them? How long was I also shit talking about them to other people because they were shitty people? Like, take back a little bit of responsibility and take back control in your life that, okay, I am actually in control of all of this. If I have shit people around me, they're not going to remove themselves because it's fun to be a shit person sometimes. People thrive on it. That's why people do it. So they're not going to remove themselves from your life, from bringing you down, and from just being a generally terrible person to you, because it's fun in a sense. Like, and that's kind of sadistic, but it's true. Like, people thrive off bringing other people down, and it's because it's the only system they know how to thrive in. And that's sad for them, but it doesn't have to be your existence. Like, take responsibility that you don't have to bring yourself into the environment of these people. Okay, maybe if they're family members, you just have to bide your time and wait until you can get out. Like, I fully understand that. But limit the time you spend with them as much as possible. Stay to your own space as much as possible, that kind of thing. And just really take responsibility in your life where you can. Some things obviously are not going to be your fault. Some things do just happen to you. Like, there's a level of discernment here that we all need to take. But yeah, that is massive. Like, taking accountability for you and your life. It was definitely a shift that was very confronting for me.
Oh, for sure. And I feel on that piece around, you know, being around shitty people, I feel like, you know, there's this huge, like, what's the word? Like, analogy around perception is projection. And if you're, you know, talking shit about other people, always commenting on other people, bringing them down, look at yourself. How are you talking to yourself? How are you treating yourself? Are you not looking after yourself? Like, are you feeling insecure within yourself? Where can you shift it inwards? Because your external world is literally a mirror of your internal world. What needs to shift? And if you're constantly doing that, like that thing of, you know, bringing other people down and talking shit and all those things, you're going to attract those people in your life.
Yeah.
So
because
yeah,
if you
where
like
can you
gossiping,
shift it?
if you like gossiping, like you're gonna start gossiping at the office, you're gonna start gossiping at the gym, you're gonna start gossiping at the coffee shop, and other people that also like to gossip and shit talk other people or bring other people down and compare others to themselves, you're gonna attract them right in because they're like, oh my god, you love to gossip too, amazing, we can be besties, we can talk about this whole office together. Like, and then the person you're bringing into your life is also then probably going to be turning around to the next person at the desk over going, oh my god, did you hear what Maddy did? Did you hear what she said in that meeting? Because if they're doing it with you, they are most definitely doing it with someone else. And that was a hard thing I had to learn in friendships. Like, if they are bringing all of their emotional dumping and gossiping to me, first of all, what does that say about me? Am I accepting this? Am I participating? But also, like, okay, but if they're doing it to me about someone else, what are they saying about me to someone else? You know? And that is not the kind of energy I want in my life, and I don't think you should either.
Yeah. And it's also that piece around like emotional intelligence. Like, how can you read people? How can you read yourself? Like, when can you catch yourself out when you are in that conversation of gossiping about someone? And don't get me wrong, like sometimes you might hear something and be like, oh, did you hear that? You know, like a little comment here or there. We all do it. Like, it's fine.
It's only natural.
We're talking, you know, the daily conversations of thriving off other people's lives and bringing them down. Where can you look at yourself? And how can you step away from that situation if it actually doesn't serve you internally? Like, you can shift it.
Yeah.
Like, you could just be, you know, being one of those gossiping girls or guys, whatever, and you actually go, oh, why did I do that? Like, why did I say that? Like, that wasn't nice.
Yeah.
Shift it. Don't do it again. Like, learn from it, move past it, process it, and take the next step. Just keep going. Like, I think that there's this huge stereotype around like processing in the coaching industry, where processing something has to be this really long, like
drawn out process.
And and it's like, think of it as like a rock climbing wall. Think of each like little boulder, rock, whatever they're called, on the rock climbing wall, and each one is like a step, right? And you're processing something, you're just going to move on and grab the other rock. Oh, that one doesn't feel too good. Let's move to the next one. You just keep moving as you're processing. Yeah. So don't let these things bring you all the way back down to like square one. Just find the next step on the rock climbing wall. That's all you have to do.
I absolutely love that analogy. Like,
how good is that? I use it all the time.
Yeah, I'm such an analogy person. Like, I'm such a visual person. So when you said that, I was like, oh my god, this is so good. This is such a good analogy.
We're climbing.
I am stealing the analogy. I will be honest.
I stole it from another coach, so it's fine.
Oh, I love that. And it's such a piece of as well. Like, okay, some of these rocks are really close to you. Some of them exist in your real frame of vision. Some of them are so fucking high up that you can't even contemplate how you're going to get there yet. That's okay. You maybe don't have to try and reach for the highest one on the wall. Exactly. The ones that are closest to you, pick those first. You're going to get higher either way, or you're going to go a little bit to the left, or you're going to go a little bit to the right. Maybe you'll even have to go down in order to do another path. Oh, I just get it. You just get it. Oh, that is the best analogy I've heard.
Oh, best analogy. So it just works. It just works. I love it.
It really does. And yeah, on that processing part, like, that's like one of my superpowers, I think. And I really love talking about superpowers because I think it does that thing that we said about celebrating yourself and like talking about your own achievements and like your own best parts. And like, yeah, one of my superpowers is really quickly dissolving stories. And something I just wanted to drop in for our listeners was that sometimes if you're saying because, it's simply because you're telling yourself a story. So I catch myself when I'm saying stories, if anywhere in the sentence in my mind because is involved or if is involved, it's a story. It's a narrative that I am playing in my mind because of something else.
That's incredible.
I
I
love that one.
love that.
Yeah. And obviously this doesn't exist for
Wow.
everything. Like,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
a level of discernment. Sometimes things are factual and you feel this way because of this. That absolutely gets to be okay. But let's take, I don't know, an example kind of similar to the one you gave earlier. All of your friends are going on a group trip and you were invited, but for whatever reason you can't go. Are you going to sit there at home and tell yourself every single story? I couldn't go because of this. What are they going to say because of this? What are they doing? What are they doing now? Because I want to be doing that. And da 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 da. Like, you could go on forever of all the stories you're going to create surrounding that. I don't go because they don't want me there. I don't go because they want to talk about me behind my back and da 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 da. Like, you can create every story imaginable when you put because in the sentence. It's just a thing. Like, when you take because out, you might actually get to the true reason. You might not. It might still just not exist in your awareness, the reason you're feeling this way. But usually when you take because out as well, you find, what is the actual problem? Is the problem that I can't go? Is the problem that I wasn't invited? Is the problem that I just feel unsafe? Is the problem that I'm just unhappy in this friendship? Is the problem that I don't actually love this person and I'm telling myself every story possible? They're a good person. They're nice to me. My family loves them. Whatever. Insert X statement. Like, are you just telling yourself stories here to keep your mind happy, to keep your ego happy, to keep other people around you happy? And when you use that, okay, is there a because in this sentence? Am I telling myself a narrative to keep something else happy? Yeah, it really does shift a lot. And it helps you really quickly dissolve them too. You can't hold these excuses when you've highlighted the fact that you're telling yourself, okay, no, that's a story.
Yeah. And I feel like also if it starts with what if.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, well, yeah, what if? But like, again, like I said earlier, what if it does work out? Like, I discovered last year that I struggle with OCD and dealing with like thoughts of like, what if this happens? Or I'm feeling this way because of this, and like making all these stories in my head that actually weren't true, but your brain just tries to make you think of the worst possible things and all these intrusive thoughts. So when people, like I would see on like Instagram and coaches and all these things, they'd say, oh, like you are your thoughts. And I was like, oh my God, like it all must be true, like all these things. And it's like, all right, bring yourself back to square one. How are you actually feeling? Like you are the human and and you can dissolve the stories that aren't actually true because you know if they're true or not. Like you just do. And I feel like that comes into like intuition as well. I feel like I've got a pretty strong intuition. And I think people do get mixed up with intuition and fear because, fear is the fight or flight response. Fear is the I'm on edge. I don't know what I'm doing. Crazy gut feeling, but it's not actually the gut feeling. It's just the little butterflies in there.
It's a rush of adrenaline and it's
being
absorbed in your digestive system and it's like it's alerting your whole presence, but maybe it's just fear. And maybe also on that, maybe it's excitement for the thing that you're not allowing yourself to think, feel, or do.
Oh, I love that.
And your body recognize, because they're very similar and they're very similar pathways too. Your body recognizes fear and excitement in very similar ways. So what you assume is fear is actually excitement for what you're not doing yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, because your brain doesn't know the difference between the two. Yeah, I love that.
So good.
So good.
We've kind of touched on this already, but what's one thing you want more people in this industry to know, either about you or something you think people aren't aware of or is not talked about enough? And I know we've touched on this already, so if you're kind of out of ideas, that's fine.
Oh, I could go on for this topic for days.
Okay, lovely.
One thing's hard to narrow it down to, but I think the thing that isn't normalized enough is the fact that we all have days. And I know that coaches and whoever else in the world, they're like, oh, I'm having a bad day. But to an extent, like I want people to talk about it. Like I want to hear how people process things.
Yeah.
Like how I just said earlier, how I process something and how I like, you know, worked through my mindset block, like talk about it. Obviously, there's a level where like emotional dumping,
Yeah.
projection, that kind of thing comes in. But I feel like if people are actually able to talk about something that they've navigated, something that they've processed through and like how it looked for them, I think that there would be a lot more people interested like in working with coaches in the industry, because it makes it relatable. It makes it like, oh, like I've been dealing with that too, but like they could maybe help me process through that. Or they could, you know, like people don't talk about it enough, and people don't talk about the literal mental struggles in, you know, the mindset and coaching industry. Because, you know, your mindset's your biggest superpower. Yeah, it 100% is. But anxiety, OCD, intrusive thoughts, depression, all these things.
Yeah, they're very real
Sometimes
things.
they overrule it. And sometimes it can be really, really hard to shut those things off. And I think that's where the industry can get a little bit insensitive.
Yeah.
I think that that's where, like, you know, they're like, oh, well, you can control your thoughts. And it's like, well, I can, but it can be quite hard.
Not all
Like,
of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we have days where we're like, you know what? I think I'm stuck in this story today, and that's just how it's going to be. But tomorrow's a new day.
And sometimes you're not ready to give up those stories. And sometimes that's to protect you. Like if you are in a unstable situation at home and you don't have anywhere to go, sometimes you have to just keep living with the story that, okay, I'm safer here. I'm like, because you actually are, like, leaving the situation is sometimes actually more dangerous than staying in it, because what is known as familiar is sometimes actually safer. And obviously level of discernment again, but like sometimes it is okay to just accept the stories. But if the stories you're surrounding yourself with are very trivial and just keep you down when they don't need to, that's when you need to work on them. And it's very real that, okay, if you have a mental health illness, you do have to, on a level, accept the fact that you are sick, and it will take time for you to receive the treatment and care to even improve your life, like much less even think about possibly curing whatever it is. Like some things also have no cure. There is no magic solution, and it's about managing it day to day. And I do agree, like I think it sometimes is insensitive, and I think maybe just there aren't enough coaches in the way that some people say this, like this space is too saturated. In the same way, I don't think it's saturated enough, because I think we do need coaches. There might be, but I haven't seen them, with disabilities, coaches with neurodivergent, I don't want to say disorders because I don't think that's the right word, but people that experience like neurodivergence and people with ADHD and things like that. There's not enough awareness in the space that, okay, you can be doing this work whilst managing other parts of your life. It's not an exclusive. If you're not mentally well and a completely perfect functioning human, you can't be a coach. I think people need the support in what's real, because I can't coach someone with ADHD because I don't have it. I don't know what it's like to live with that. I can't coach someone with OCD because I don't know what it's like to live with that. I can help you in other parts and in other spaces of your life that I can relate to and I can touch on and I can speak to, but it does just get to be okay that you have an illness and you are working on it and you're managing it the best way you can.
Absolutely. And I think obviously they are very psychology therapy based illnesses, which I totally understand because like relatable. But yeah, like I just think we need to more so honor our seasons that we're in. Like I don't struggle with anxiety and OCD all the time. OCD was just like a phase that I'd gone through, and it hasn't happened for a while now. And like who knows, might come up again one day. But right now I'm managing. I'm doing okay, and I'm actually doing great. But then there's days where like it's not so good, but let's honor that and just like accept it and not shame ourselves for that because we don't have the perfect mindset because we're a coach. Like none of the coaches out there are perfect. They still have their struggles. They're still doing their shadow work. They're still doing whatever they need to be doing. And that's also not talked about enough, I feel.
Yeah. And I think as well, like there's a piece in this on, if you aren't at the level of emotional intelligence that you want to be, don't shame yourself out of doing any of this work. simply because you're not perfect, quote unquote.
Mm.
You don't have to be this insane level of emotionally intelligent that you dissolve stories left, right, and center. You're jumping on that rock climbing wall like 3 things at a time, and you're going so quickly, and everything is sorted like so fast. It doesn't have to be that way for everyone, and it's not an ascribed like, okay, well, if you're not working with a coach every single day of your life, and if you're not dissolving stories every day of your life, and if you're not out running and, you know, insert like health mantra kind of thing, like it just is okay. Like, you're not there yet, and if that's where you want to be, it is great. Like, I'm proud of you for wanting to get to that stage, but just be a human in all of this. Like, recognize yourself as a living, breathing, functioning human, and there are going to be shit days. Everyone has them. Like, last week was a total write-off for me in terms of like mental health days and feeling low, and part of that is also my hormone cycle. Like,
absolutely.
It's nice to know that, okay, some people actually struggle with hormones, some people actually struggle with mental illness, some people struggle with their periods. Like, I have the worst periods. They are
Same.
not
Me right now.
Yeah,
TMI.
exactly. But it's not TMI. That's the thing, isn't it? Like, these are our natural cycles. These are things that happen to our body on a monthly basis for most of our lives. And yet there is so much shame around talking about them. And there is so much shame, I don't think attributed from other women, but just shame within ourselves and within like society about talking about your periods and what's normal and what's not normal. I didn't even know that I saw a TikTok the other day that apparently we bleed internally. Apparently that's just a thing. That when you're on your period, blood goes back inside of you before it comes out.
Oh.
Oh, exactly. And that's why there's so much pain sometimes, because you are actually internally bleeding, and that is
I'm
an actual
internally
thing.
bleeding right now, and this is painful.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, but how did I not know that? I've been doing this monthly since I was like 12. How did I not know that blood wasn't just coming out of me? It was actually going back inside of me. How is that something we've just not taught? I know.
Shocked.
And honestly, I probably should definitely fact check this, but lots of people in the comments were like, yeah, my OBGYN told me this and blah, blah, blah. So I kind of trust it a little bit. But, you know, fact check people. But
trust everything on TikTok.
Honestly, I trust too much on TikTok.
Same.
I'm the new, like, you know, when people used to just read whatever in a magazine or a newspaper and take it for gospel. That's kind of me with TikTok at this point.
That's me. Yeah, absolutely same.
But yeah, like, there's just so much we don't know about our bodies. There is so much we don't know about our minds, and until you know them, you don't know.
You don't. Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah. I feel like when you said, you know, you don't have to be a super emotionally intelligent person, like, I'm still not at 100% with my emotional intelligence. I'm still not.
Exactly.
And I probably never will be. Like, when I started out as a coach, I had no idea. I literally had no idea. And the things that I know now, I did not know back then. I can guarantee you, like, the way I speak, the way I act, the things I do. I was not the same person back then. Like, if you go back on my Instagram, you'll be like, oh my God. like there is evidence that I had no idea.
But both of those are completely fine.
Yeah. And if you want to be a coach and you don't know, or you feel like you don't know a lot, you might, in some sort of way, you know exactly all that you need to know right now. And you can only grow more. Like, you can only, like, honestly, I think if you're passionate, I think if you're willing, I think if you're just, like, you want to be in the industry, you want to help people, you want to guide people, just try.
Yeah.
Again, what if it does work out? Like, who knows? You literally will never know.
Because even now, you saying that, like, a year ago, you were in X place and you didn't know what you know now. Same with me, exactly the same. Even a month ago, I'm a completely,
literally, yesterday.
I'm a completely evolved person. Exactly. Even from this conversation, I'm an evolved person. And like, both versions of me are doing the best they can.
Yeah.
The version of me that started this coaching business had the purest intentions, the same intentions I have now, that I want to help people because I know this work and I know the level of impact it has. And 2022 August me that started my business is so much, it's like so proud of
Yeah.
this version of me, because I didn't even think I'd get this far. I didn't even think I'd have a podcast. Like,
Right.
and now
With a
I've got
guest
you
on
on
it.
it. Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't have done this without this happening. I wouldn't have done this without this happening. And then just roll that back all the way to when I started the business, and 5 years before that I've been in this space. And like, you can't shame yourself for being at the starting line,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't get to this point of how many years are you into your business? A couple of years now?
Year and a half about, yeah.
Yeah, you're a year and a half into your business, but if you hadn't have taken the start a year and a half ago, you would not be a year and a half into your business.
I'd probably still be working in hospitality, hating my life.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't shame yourself that you have to start.
Yeah.
That you're a beginner, that like you've not done X, Y, and Z, you've not joined this course yet, you've not taken this class yet. If you never start, you'll never get to the point where you're an experienced coach, where you're an experienced, I don't know, chef. How are you going to be a chef if you never cook a fucking meal? Like,
literally though,
you can't get there without starting. And there's this level of like, oh, but like, what if I fail? Well, what if you fucking succeed? What if you get there?
What if it was
it's everything you
even
dreamed
better
of?
than you imagined? Like,
exactly.
who knows? And you're never going to know if, like, unless you do it. Like,
exactly.
Let this be your fucking sign to just do the thing you want to do. I am just an avid believer in that. Like, just do literally whatever you want to do. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't. Who cares? Try again. Like, it's like the habits that we do. It's like me trying not to go on my phone in the mornings. I did multiple mornings where I failed this year. And like yesterday, I did it successfully. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it again tomorrow. And look,
exactly.
I might fail again one day, but you just pick yourself back up and you keep going. Because if you're passionate, if you're driven in whatever you want to do, you will make it. I promise you.
And if it's meant for you, like we said at the start of this episode, the doors will open and the doors will shut, and it will keep you on the right path.
Absolutely. We've come full circle.
I love it. I love it. So good. I think that's a great segue as well into like one of my newest offers. It's completely free and I'm so excited to talk about it. It's called Make the First Move. And it's so much similar to what we've been talking about today, of just doing the fucking thing, to just starting, to just being okay with being a beginner and feeling the fear that is inside you and doing the fucking thing anyway. Like, push through it, do the thing. That is all kind of is like we're going to be talking about in my newest free masterclass that's coming in the next couple of weeks. So join the email list, you'll get some information. Look on my highlights on my Instagram, and yeah, jump in with me. It's going to be so good. And I wanted to ask you as well, what have you got going on in your world right now? Like, what do we want to let people know about so that they can be doing the fucking thing too?
Well, first of all, I do have a podcast as well. So if you would love to visit my podcast, it's just called the Maddy Stepho podcast. We talk all things mindset, wellness. I mix them together. All the things of just getting your life together and getting yourself on track. And in terms of offers, I have my 3-day course, which is called Reflect and Reset, which is basically all about getting clear on where you're at now. Because I was a person that was just always in ruts and feeling foggy and feeling unclear. And I was like, I need something that will help me get out of this because I can't do this anymore. So I made a course on it. It's a 3-day course with 3 modules. And we basically go through auditing your life, your whole entire life. You pick the categories, we audit them. And you get clear on where you're at. We process the things that you're holding on to. And then we let go, we reset, and we get like really current with like where we're at and where we want to go and how we can get there. So it's a very like clarity based course, which I'm really excited about. And I also have a broadcast, which I'm so excited. I've never done one before, but that's coming out. It starts next week. So
exciting.
It is literally really cheap as well. It's $30, just saying, like so cheap.
That's
but it's called I know. I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. So it's basically called the Back to Basics broadcast, where I just plug in for 2 weeks straight, talking about all the things I'm going through, processing my mindset, my habits, my routines, all things wellness, thought provokes, all the things. So if you'd love to
I
be
love
in my
that.
world, I would love to have you there.
That is so cool. And yeah, let me just say, if you are not even on the rock climbing wall yet, this is what you can be doing for yourself to just even climb onto the wall, to the very first rung, if you will. Like,
just put the harness on.
Exactly. Like, get into some of these things, especially if they are a low investment, like financially. I know obviously we're in a cozy living, cost of living is a bit fucking crazy. So if that's something that's holding you back right now, and if that's something that's keeping you in the situation instead of progressing, find these things like me and Maddy, and there are so many other coaches in the space right now doing so many free money investments, but incredible value and incredible investment into yourself. Get yourself in these spaces because they are honestly incredible. They are changing your life.
Yep.
These things are compounding. And just because you didn't spend £3,000 on it doesn't mean it's not going to change your life like you spent £3,000 on it.
Yeah, totally agree. And I feel like even just listening to this podcast and being in a sense
should not be free.
close proximity with two coaches, this is a privilege.
Yeah, honestly.
Like, your ears are being blessed right now because you're just plugging into our brains, and it's so exciting. But
exactly.
Let this be your first step on the rock climbing wall.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so happy that we got to have this conversation and just speak to so many things in this industry and within us, to be honest, as well. Like, I love this episode. I just want to thank you so much for joining me, and also to our listeners for listening to this point. Such a good episode. I love it. I'm so excited to go through it.
High on life right now.
I know. I'm so pumped up. It's like 8:15 in the morning, and I'm about to go smash my life, like everything.
I'm about to go to bed.
You've now got to like find time to like wind down and stuff. Oh bless. I am so pleased that we got on to do this. So thank you so much for this and for having you on my podcast. What am I trying to say there? Thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
My pleasure. I'm so grateful to be here. This like call and podcast just got me like thinking about so many things. I'm gonna have to like go into a journaling session after this because I've got so much in my brain. I'm like, oh, I'm excited.
Yeah, I love this. Okay, right, let's say goodbye now because I could talk to you for hours.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope to be back on here again one day.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.